A UNISA office administrator has been revealed as the author of several fake news websites. According to a News 24 investigation, the 29-year-old and his sister also used several Facebook groups to distribute their misinformation. Among the fake news they spread is that the dross rapist was black, when it emerged later that a 22-year-old white man allegedly committed the crime. So is there any way to shut down these fake news sites, and how can you actually tell what's true and what's a lie? Joining us now is Media Monitoring Africa's Sarah Finley to explain how we'll know. Sarah, good morning.
Thanks,
I mean, firstly, unbelievable, the story that, when he should have been doing some work at UNISA, this is what he was busy doing. And something like, was it 19 sites, if I remember correctly? I mean, it was several. It was, what does it take? Let's start. What does it take to actually set up a fake news site and actually make it look legit, to get people to actually buy into it?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me. And I think this is quite a breaking story because Mzansi Stories is well known as this distributor of disinformation. And I think the biggest problem with it is that it piggybacks off legitimate real stories. And so, for example, the Dross rapist is a real story, but it put a different spin on it. It also had stories about Malusi Gigaba's sex tape, and it said, instead of it finishing where the real story finished, it went on to say that it included scenes with an underage girl. And so it always elevates what is a real story. And so those lines become incredibly blurred between what is real and what is not.
And I suppose somebody out there might ask, but why? Why would you? I mean, what do you have to gain? Is there money to be made from setting up a fake website?
Yeah, there's big money if you can get enough traffic through programmatic advertising. And so that's one of the big things. If you have enough clickbait headlines to draw traffic to your site, programmatic advertising means that people often, advertisers don't even know that they're on those fake sites.
Okay.
And so the owners of that website then generate all that revenue just from having people looking at that website.
Okay, so it's not just people who are bored and just want to spread lies. There's actual money to be made. How would I know? And I know that we had this discussion years ago when fake news became a thing. But now, how would I know that what I'm reading is fake, or before I even get into the website? Can I identify it just by looking at a link?
So there are multiple things to look for. So a URL, look very carefully at a URL. So a few months ago, instead of having a News 24, it was 24 News. So be very careful because a lot of these websites try to replicate legitimate media.
Okay.
For ENCA, it might change to NCAE or something along those lines. Also, if it's an extremely long URL. MMA, we also have a platform called Open and Disclose, where we try and showcase credible media who are members of the Press Council, who have a Contact Us page where you can lodge a complaint. You can also often look for very sensationalist headlines and very problematic ads. If there's a lot of pornography, or try these 5 tips to bring your lover back, or those kinds of things.
Okay, so if it doesn't look like it belongs in the sort of in the context of what you are actually reading. So when it comes to legal action, I mean, now what are the charges that this man and his sister will be facing?
Well, so they come from multiple spheres. So some people have been incorrectly identified. So, for example, in that Dross rapist, the man who was accused could come forward and say,
and they had a picture, right? There was a picture of a black man, so that would be what, defamation?
Yes.
Okay.
And if it's led to any other harm, both reputational, but it also could result in physical harm. But they also did, I'm not sure if you remember, there was a Sesetu, it was called the Sesetu sex video, about a 14-year-old girl who had videoed herself for her boyfriend, but his friend had gotten hold of it and it went on YouTube. And Mzansi Stories then took that film that YouTube took down very quickly, but then put a whole other story about how she then committed suicide and her family were very poor and how her dad had lost her job because of this whole thing. And so her family could very definitely take him to court.
Take him to court.
And I know we are also investigating the child sex abuse material that they
Any others
displayed.
that we should be wary of that we might not know, like Mzansi Stories? I mean, that's a definite, we can identify that. Others that we should be aware of?
So there's another one called ABC News, which replicates, it looks like a very legitimate site, but it runs very similar to Mzansi Stories, where it takes legitimate stories and either copies from credible media houses word for word, or it's completely fabricated.
And do those media houses have a case against people who come up with sites like this?
Yes. So often, credible media will have serve takedown notices, specifically around plagiarism of content and copying of content.
Okay, so it wouldn't just be seen as sharing and commenting, because sometimes, because we'll share a link with friends and say, so if they are using legitimate, they definitely have a case, even though it's out in the public domain already.
Especially if there's no attribution. This is from News 24. Thank you very much for your hard work journalism for this piece.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, these have dire consequences for people. It's not just about disseminating false information. Like you say, it can actually affect people's lives, definitely. Okay, thanks very much for that. And Sarah, just giving us an idea of what it takes to actually create a website like this. And it's not just about being mischievous, it's actually about making money, and just don't fall for it.